What's up, NBA fans? What's up, all sports fans? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench podcast network and channel, giving a shout out to the rest of the crew: Shy, Kelvin, Jermaine, KB Film Room, and Big Dog Talk Sports. That's right, that's right. And everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. Subscribe to the channel, help make this show the best that it can be. I just want to start this off by giving kudos to the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers, man, who have really persevered in building a championship nucleus, a championship caliber team, a team that can vie for the NBA championship, and they did it by the book. One team basically started over 5 years ago, cleared the deck, brought in, acquired about as many first-round draft picks we've ever seen by a franchise. And another team strategically made key moves to put themselves in position to advance to the finals this year. And whereas about 4 years ago, they was middling at mediocrity, basically a 500 ball club, man. And normally a 500 ball club, that's been playing at that level for a number of years, is hard to take that next step, to pursue a championship. Usually those type of teams, man, you have to break that up and try to start all over again. So kudos to those teams. Oklahoma City Thunder, they're one game away after last night, game 5, defeating Indiana Pacers. I think the score was something like 117-103, something like that. But they're one game away from winning the NBA crown, man. And it's a beautiful thing. And I have no qualms. And when I say I have no qualms, I have no qualms. Because what these teams are doing, especially Oklahoma City Thunder, being in the Western Conference, it just shows and it validates my whole thought process in that young talent was always paramount for this decade in terms of playing within the one and done system. Whereas over the past decade or so, young talent was devalued to flip around to bring in superstars. That's not real team building, and it's not real competition. And it actually, you lose your identity as a franchise when you go that route. See, Oklahoma City, they have an identity. Indiana Pacers, they have an identity. The teams that go for it all, throw all the chips in the middle of the table, they have none. When you hear a talking head on these shows, when they use the term "win now," you should run away. Run away with dirt, like a deer in headlights. Get out of there. If a franchise listens to that type of mindset, they're done. They're cooked. And I guarantee you, a lot of teams, particularly, teams with new ownership, trying to make a big splash because they really don't understand what it takes to build a long-standing roster. They can compete for a number of years. And that's all I wanted out of my squad. That's all I wanted, not out of my squad. That's all I wanted for my squad. Because we was, like I said, when you lose a player, when a transcendent player of 20 years represents your franchise retires, as we saw with the late great Kobe Bean Bryant, you have to start over, man. And for a player to represent your team for 20 years, man, that's beyond the norm anyway. So you had this rare opportunity to start anew, where really you have so many advantages within that window of opportunity, because you get to create a team from a vision that could benefit you a long time. There's only so many Kobe Bryants to go around. You know what I'm saying? So There's only so many like Dirk Nowitzki's and Tim Duncans, players of that caliber. So what I'm getting at is when I say that Kobe Bryant was passing the torch down to what should go down as the original young core of the NBA under the one and done system. He was passing that torch down. This is what Julius Randle has always emphasized when he does interviews, even during this playoff run. You know, he always mentioned how important Kobe Bryant mentorship was to his career. And I'm telling you, when I look at OKC, when I look at the ages of the players who they brought in as rookies, Jalen Williams, who's, he's turned into a heck of a player, and he's playing huge in this postseason. He was 21 years old during his rookie year. Chet Holmgren in his first year with Oklahoma City Thunder, he was 21 years old. See, that's how teams used to operate when they brought in rookies during the 80s, the 1980s. They were 21 years old on average. So you knew they had major development in college, and they was ready to come in and make an immediate impact. That's one of the main reasons why OKC is taking this tremendous jump. Now, the Lakers' young core, the original young core, heck, Brandon Ingram technically was 18 years old when he was drafted in. Lonzo Ball was 19 years old. Zubac was 18 when he was drafted. You know what I'm saying? And Julius Randle was a one and done player also. He was 19 years old. Lonzo was one and done. Brandon Ingram was one and done. So the cornerstone who was brought in to, implemented starters, they were one and done players. And then the Lakers took it a whole nother level by bringing in experienced college players with 3-4 years of college experience at their level. Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart. And then they balanced it off, with Jordan Clarkson, 2 years of college. I believe Larry Nance Jr. did 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 years. But he wasn't a one and done player. So what I'm saying is, man, the Los Angeles Lakers was set to do something really special, dog. It just required patience and a long-term view of things. They were not the reason why they were let go. It had nothing to do with player performance. This is why I keep stressing this point over and over and over again. The reason why they was let go, it had nothing to do with player performance. They was casted out to flip them around and their value, because if they weren't any good, you can't get Anthony Davis. You can't get Russell Westbrook. You can't get Luka Doncic. So what I'm saying is, especially the AD trade, they start clearing out the cap. They start clearing out the roster, letting Randle walk, trading Zubac, trading Thomas Bryant, Zavi Mikhailiuk, Mo Wagner. They made all these moves, trading Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr. They traded those two guys, those two young men, to Cleveland to create cap space to bring in the Hurricane, the Soul Snatcher. That may be my new moniker for him, the Hurricane, the Soul Snatcher. I gotta flip a coin, because he snatched the soul right out from this franchise, dealing with this dude. So what I'm saying is, man, being 19 is totally different than 21. That's 2 extra years of physical development, mental maturity, but they had all the talent in the world collectively. And I came across this information about Julius Randle, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind. Now, his last year with the Lakers, where he played all 82 games, right? The last player since Julius Randle to play all 82 games is also an original Laker, and Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is now under trade rumor because they need a center. So they're going to sacrifice him. Or Dalton Connect was already sacrificed. Only reason he's still on the Lakers is because the trade didn't go through for Mark Williams from the Charlotte Hornets, because he had an injury issue. That's the only reason they rescinded the trade. So we're giving up this young talent in draft picks to funnel in these players, man, these superstars. It's really a bootleg, and it's a bogus way to build a team. You see what's happening down there in Phoenix. Kevin Durant tried to kind of do the same thing that the Hurricane did. But the difference between KD and the Hurricane, the media is backed the Hurricane from day one. KD has been basically an outcast ever since he went to Golden State. Before then, KD was the ambassador of the league, quiet as it kept. Kevin Durant was an ambassador of the NBA. You know, he represented the NBA playing in the Rucker tournament back in 2012. You know what I'm saying? And he kind of did it in honor of Kobe Bryant, to tell you the truth. Because Kobe Bryant played the Rucker tournament back in 2002. So what I'm getting at is, man, that's what this whole experience has been. I even had a fan of the Hurricane admit to me that's how they produced that bubble chip in 2020, because they flipped all the young talent around and bring in superstars and veteran-laden players to try to shortcut their way. It's not, let me put it to me, it don't mean nothing, man. When you look at all these teams historically, that, you know, the Bulls started from the ground up. When Jordan won that first title, he was so overcome with emotion. The whole basketball country, man, they embraced Jordan, man. Even when he beat us, the Lakers in '91, and win his first title, and I felt the pain of that, man, for about 3 weeks. But you still had to honor Jordan as a fan of this game, because you knew how hard he had to work to reach the top of the mountain. Isaiah Thomas overcoming emotion after 8 years of struggling to get to the top. You know, Akeem Olajuwon. We can go down the line, man. We can go down the line. You know, Boston and the Lakers, as great as they were in the 80s, they still had their challenges. They still had their challenges to maintain that standard of play. You know, Jokic, his struggle. Giannis, his struggle. You know, Curry, when he overcoming emotion 3 years ago and leading Golden State to the title. You know, post KD. You know, and man, you just feel so freaking good when you see that, man. That's what it's about. But it was something about Julius Randle, information I came across, it blew my mind. And see, the instincts, see, this is why I keep going back to the year, the season prior to bringing the Hurricane to this franchise. And my instincts have been spot on each and every time when I refer back to that season. Like, I didn't know that the Lakers was the second best rebounding team in 2018. They was a better rebounding team in 2018 than they were when they brought AD to the team, and then Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee and the Hurricane. Go figure. That's what I'm saying. Fundamentally, structural rise, the young core Laker team was built better than the team who they threw all the children in the middle of the table to create. Because their team was already the oldest squad in the league. That's why they changed the roster up the next year, even though they won the bubble. So check this out. Julius Randle played all 82 games of this franchise. After being inserted into the starting lineup, he was basically giving you 20 and 10. But this is the statistic that blew me away. And I came across this early, a couple of days ago. Julius Randle shot 56% from the field. Let me repeat that. He shot 56% from the field. And then when he was let go by the Lakers, his 1 year in with the New Orleans Pelicans, he shot 52% from the floor. And ever since then, he's been shooting like in the upper 40 percentile range. Then you start to ask yourself, why is that? When you look back at Randle's career, when he went to the Knicks, he had a bet on himself to maximize his performance with the Knicks, he had to change his game up. He had to become more of a perimeter-oriented player. He had to start acclimating, implementing the three-point shot into his game. Why was that? Because the difference between his year in New York and in Minnesota versus the Lakers and the Pelicans, particularly the Lakers, especially the Lakers, he was playing alongside a legitimate threat at the 5 position. That's why. He had opportunity to play with Ivica Zubac and then Brook Lopez, who was a legitimate threat in the post. And then he played with Anthony Davis that 1 year in New Orleans. So what this shows me is that Julius Randle was indeed a cornerstone of the team. He was the cornerstone player. So imagine if we had developed Ivica Zubac and never traded him, considering how he played this year, which was no surprise to me, and he still, in essence, was undervalued. He should be getting more shot attempts. As the Clippers are dealing with an older Kawhi Leonard and an older James Harden, who historically has not played well in the postseason. I believe if Zubac was the consistent number 2 player in that series versus Denver, I believe the Clippers would have beat them. But when they stopped going to Zubac after about game 4, and it became that kind of that ISO ball up top, Denver wound up blowing them out in that game 7. When he was playing well against Nikola Jokic, where so much so we really never seen a big man defend Jokic as well as Zubac did. So imagine, and then Zubac, if I'm not mistaken, this season, when it comes to clutch shooting within 5 feet of the basket, Zubac led all centers in that category. And he can shoot, I think for a stretch, he was shooting 90% from the free throw line. This man is highly, when they talk about efficiency, I ain't talking about analytics, I'm talking about efficiency. Zubac is about as good as you can get in terms of efficiency because he don't command a lot of touches and can still produce the 18 and 12 per 36 minutes, which he was generating before he was traded to the Clippers in his 3rd year. Ingram, doing his after his first year with New Orleans, for the next 3 seasons, he was the best mid-range shooter in the game for anybody 30 years or younger in the NBA. So you have a power forward who's left-handed, who's shooting 50%, 56% from the field. You have a Zubac who can shoot like 65% from the field and was only going to get better. And then Ingram is your mid-range scorer who can pull it from the elbow. And then you build around that. And then you have a point guard who plays a traditional style of basketball at that position, where his rookie year he was dishing out 7.5 assists. See, what I'm trying to say is, man, when you look back at this, man, that team was being built to darn near perfection. To where by they finished up, all they needed was that final piece of the puzzle, which was the star free agent, the superstar free agent. The Lakers never needed 2 superstars in free agency. They just needed 1. The type of blueprint that was being established by the Laker brass, particularly the Buss brothers. Not Jim Buss, but Jesse Buss and I believe Jerry Buss, who scouted those players along with long-standing Laker figure John Cunliffe, who was the original coach of this franchise when they started off and originated in Minneapolis, who produced the first dynasty in the late 40s and early 50s with George Mikan, legendary George Mikan, leading the way as the NBA's first true superstar. John Conlon participated in that drafting phase from 2014 up until about 2017 before he passed. Passed on. He was in the boardroom, sitting there when Mitch Kupchak selected Julius Randle with the number 7 pick in 2014. Conlon made the suggestion to draft Julius Randle, as he did with other players. So this would have been a homegrown effort, man. This is why I keep emphasizing this. But when you brought the Hurricane to the team and you gutted all that out and you're still gutting it out, you're relying on all outside players with so-called reputation. But when they get here, they're proven to not be as good as what you gave up. This is why they keep flipping the roster around. Who they bringing up in here is not good enough to replace what you should have had all along, starting with Julius Randle. And I can sit here and say, man, I know Anthony Davis, man. I know he's more talented, as far as natural ability and all that. But I can even sit here and say, schematically, man, like the moment they traded Anthony Davis, what did he say? I don't want to play center. I don't want to play center. I don't want to play center. But with Julius Randle, you didn't have that problem with Randle because you had drafted a center in Zubac. Then you had a high-level player in Brook Lopez who wanted to stay with the Lakers to mentor Zubac. Then you drafted Thomas Bryant, who, when utilized properly, he can get you 16 a game. He showed that during his second stint with the Lakers when he started 25 games during the 22-23 season. And then Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins, wanted to sign with the Lakers the year while he was recovering from that Achilles injury. So technically, you could have had a four-headed monster at that position. You fast forward 7 years later, you don't have a center on this team. That just show you, man, the path that we took was not the right one. But fans would say, oh, man, we won a championship in 2020. That was a bubble. That was a tournament. See, we got to start being real. The only way the Lakers are going to move beyond this malaise, move beyond this virtual reality state that we're in right now, we have to be realistic about what has happened to the franchise. Because the guy who's causing all this, man, he's not leading them anywhere positive. That so-called honeymoon with Luka Doncic is going to be the shortened honeymoon imaginable because all the pressure is going to be on him to cover for what the Lakers have given up over the past 6 years in a way that they didn't even expect Anthony Davis to do. See, this for all the marbles, man. This is why they pressing so hard to try to bring a big man up in here and sacrifice anybody who they need to try to accomplish that goal. But again, whoever they bring up in here, they're not going to be as good as Ivica Zubac. That's the problem. The point guards they've been trying to bring up in here, the Dennis Schroeders, the Gabe Vincent, the Kendrick Nuns, all these cats, they're not point guards in the manner that Lonzo Ball was, even with Lonzo Ball with a broken shot. And the only reason he suffered that knee injury is because of them shoes he was wearing, the Big Baller brand that were not manufactured legitimately and was basically a health hazard to his knees. Otherwise, Lonzo Ball, he would have been out there doing what he was projected to do. Because that first year with Chicago, he was playing at a level, man, where he was the best combo guard in the NBA before he injured that knee. Even Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan at the time said Lonzo Ball was the driving force of that team. Wow. See, these young core Lakers that were sent elsewhere, those teams understand their value. They understand what they bring to the table. You see what I'm saying? So, in closing, when I found out about Julius Randle, that blew my freaking mind. But in order to maximize his play with the Knicks, he had to change his game up. See, but if he was still with the Lakers, and you got a legitimate back to the basket center in Zubac, man, then you got Brandon Ingram with that mid-range game that he was mastering. Because I'm telling you, I believe Kawhi Leonard would have came to the Lakers, would have signed to the Lakers in 2019 if the Hurricane went on the roster. Because Kawhi Leonard wanted to return back to Los Angeles, which is his home. So I'm pretty confident Kawhi Leonard would have signed with the Lakers. Man, can you imagine Kawhi Leonard at the 3? You slide Brandon Ingram down at the 2 because he's really a 2 guard. You got Lonzo running the point because truth be told, the Clippers, that's been their Achilles heel. They ain't had no point guard. They had Kawhi Leonard all them years with Paul George, and they tried to bring in Rondo, but Rondo was at the end. Westbrook was an age player. They didn't have no prime point guard on that team. Man, you got Lonzo out there, Brandon Ingram, Kawhi Leonard, Julius Randle, and you building up Zubac, and you got Kuzma and Clarkson coming off the bench, Josh Hart, Larry Nance Jr., Caruso, Thomas Bryant. I'm telling you, man, this team would be deadly. Won't nobody be able to do nothing with them. Guaranteed. And you're still bringing in your reinforcements, your Austin Reeves, your Dalton Connects, your Max Christie's, your Scottie Pippen Jr., and God knows who else. Because you still had all your draft picks. The Lakers wouldn't have needed trades. That's what I'm saying. They wouldn't have needed trades. Everything was in place. You did all the. In closing, I'm gonna shut it down. In closing, Jesse Buss did an interview during the time the first 2 weeks of the 2015-2016 season when Kobe announced this was gonna be his last year in the NBA. He did an interview, man. He said, we got a 5-year plan to return back to the top. Number 1, draft a bevy of young talent. They accomplished that tenfold. They even took it to the next level in 2017 where they brought in 4 drafted players. 4 of them. Second step, begin to clear out the cap. They moved on from Timothy Mozgov. They stretched out Lou Aldain's contract. They traded Lou Williams away to acquire the number 2 pick, which they turned into Lonzo Ball. So you didn't have nobody on that team commanding top dollar, right? And then step 3 was to bring in a star free agent by the time the young core started to come of age. That trigger date would have been 2019, the largest free agent pool in the history of the NBA in terms of prime superstar laden talent, all-star laden talent, elite role player laden talent, specialists, defensive specialists, shooting specialists. You had it all. And I'm telling you, the stars was lining up. The Lakers could have just, all they had to do was sit back and let this thing marinate. With Julius Randle being your cornerstone, your league cornerstone. And what I loved about Randle, like I say, he was a leader. They galvanized around him, man, because he learned that from Kobe Bryant. That was passed down to Kobe Bryant. And he didn't back down from nobody. He didn't back down from Kevin Garnett when they got into a little back and forth. He didn't back down from Tyson Chandler. He didn't back down from DeMarcus Cousins. That's why Kobe Bryant said, that's Julius Randle. You're a grown-ass man. And we let him walk for nothing. Because the Hurricane got this franchise thinking you can buck the system and win. And all they got out of it was a bubble. And they've been falling short since. 2 first-round exits. Luka Doncic can't save this franchise. They can sit there and try to say it. But once again, the formula's going to be low-tier players as free agents and trying to sacrifice your own to upgrade a position that you would have never had to. You let this thing stay the course. and back and invest in that young core 150%. I'm telling you, man, it'll be a story for the ages. I know it in my heart, and I know this is a rare view, but I don't mean it ain't true. That's why I keep stressing it, man, because I love what those young men represented to this franchise. The soul was snatched away when they was casted out. That's why they had no direction. That's why there's more questions than answers. That's why they sitting there trying to scrum up a big man as we speak. Think about this. Ingram was traded away at 21 years old. Jalen Williams was 21 years old when he was drafted by OKC. You see, Zubac was let go at 21 years old. Chet Holmgren was 21 years old in his first year in OKC playing. You see what I'm trying to say? You trade away a 21-year-old, the number 2 pick of the draft. I've never seen that before. Never. But yeah, Julius Randle, 56% from the floor. 56%, people. Man, I'm telling you, they built this thing up right, man. This team would be averaging 120 points a game, dog. Because you had 52, 53 points coming off the bench that year alone. 52, 53 points. They averaged 7. The Lakers' second unit in the first round this year averaged 7 points a game. That's how bad it's dried up. Because your talent pool been depleted. You had the Hurricane on this team, Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook, all on the same team. Dwight Howard, who fans wanted back because they think that, oh man, what he provided in the bubble, he can do it again. They brought back Rajon Rondo. Do you realize, man, they traded Rajon Rondo mid-season? Carmelo Anthony popped his hamstring after the All-Star break because he was an aged player. See, that team, when they brought in all them big names in 21, 22, that team wasn't going to do nothing but crash because they had no talent pool of their own. None. Because they got rid of Kuzma. None. Austin Reeves was just a rookie. Taylor Horton-Tucker was devalued. He was never really part of the real young core. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, they got rid of him too. And they talking about getting rid of Dalton Connect and Austin Reeves. I'm telling you, and I'm in it here. If the Lakers get rid of them 2 players, man, this franchise is done. You ain't got none of your own players representing your franchise. That means you have nothing. This franchise will be done. Just kiss the 2030s goodbye. And even before then. Because it's not a guarantee. Because Luka Doncic will not play with this franchise for no 10 years. It's not going to happen. AD didn't do it. He lasted 5.5 years. They got to get rid of that dude who they doing all this for. They got to get him out of here, man. It cost us that young core. It cost us that future. It cost us a decade. It cost us getting the actual superstar who would have been willing to anchor what we already had. Period. End of discussion. So kudos to Julius Randle, man. 56% from the floor. I found it out a couple of days ago. That blew my freaking mind. I couldn't believe that. So I just want to drop that nugget. Please leave your comments and thoughts. And like I said, go to basketballreference.com, type in Julius Randle, or just type in Julius Randle, and then you can pull up his stats through basketballreference.com, and you'll see during the 2017-2018 season, that man broke through and shot 56% from the field. 56%. I'm telling you, you let B.I. cook in his third year without bringing the Hurricane to the team, the soul snatcher. B.I., he dropping 22 a game in his third year easily. Zubac improving. Kuzma, 16.5 points a game. He would have upped his game. Clarkson would have been giving you more points coming off the bench than he did before he was traded. Nance Jr. giving you that energy off the bench, the crazy dunks, the hustle plays, the block shots, jumping in the stands, keeping the ball in play. galvanizing the crowd. See, they gave us they all. That's the difference. This unit, outside that 1 year, this team's been underperforming, and you've heard fans complain they're not giving us they all. They lollygagging. They selling us short. But we already sold ourselves short when they brought this dude to the team. Because he has intangibles that are counterproductive to real winning. This is why he always needs constant overhauls to mask and cover the gaps in his game. So, like I said, man, we could have had a beautiful thing, man, because Oklahoma City's on the verge of doing just that. And we ain't gonna be able to complain because we had only difference is they applied the blueprint and saw it through. We originated the blueprint and cast it all out for 1 year for the Hurricane, the soul snatcher of the NBA. So leave your comments and thoughts. I just want to drop that golden nugget. And until next time, this your boy JB for BTB Behind the Bench.